Hello, and welcome to today's Getting Started with the Marketing Center webinar. My name is John Shrives, and I'm part of the Learning Services team here at Royal LePage Canada. Today, we're going to be spending about 45 minutes to an hour of our time together so I can show you the Marketing Center, which is our online tool for creating a whole range of different marketing pieces. And I want to do a deep demonstration just to share with you all the functionality that's available to you from within the system. So with that, let me get started and switch over to my presentation. So as a part of today's webinar today, there's a few things that I want to cover. The first thing that I want to talk about is a feature that's called listing data integration. And what that means is that if you currently have a listing that is active through MLS, then you can automatically create a variety of Marketing Center templates using that information from your listing. So we'll automatically input all of the photos as well as any text that you've already entered for that listing when you had posted it to your board and then onto the MLS system. Next, I want to give you some tips for getting started with the Marketing Center, much of which centers on getting your profile set up and ready to go within the system. We'll walk through the steps for finding new templates. I want to talk to you a little bit about how to go about creating new projects. Next, once we've actually created something together, I want to show you the many options that we have available for you in terms of distributing these projects and ways of sharing them with your clients and potential clients. I'd like to dedicate some time to Canada's anti-spam legislation and talk about what that means for real estate and also how you can use some of the tools from within the Marketing Center to ensure that you are compliant with this law. To close things out, I want to talk about how you can add contacts into the system. And then once you've got contacts in there, how you can include them as part of a drip marketing campaign. And what I mean by that is if setting them up so that they're receiving regular messaging from you, either information to help educate them through the sales funnel, or to share with them a quarterly newsletter about kind of home maintenance, renovation, as well as the latest real estate market updates. Before I get into the Marketing Center itself, I just want to give you a little bit of a background and talk about some of the support that is available. The primary support being, of course, our customer care team here at Royal LePage Canada. And this is our phone service. You've got their phone number there. It's the toll-free number, 1-877-757-4545. And they're here to support you with all of the tools and services that are offered by Royal LePage. And that includes the Marketing Center. They're available from Monday to Friday, 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. Eastern Time. And they're a team made up of 4 individuals to take your calls and help out with any issues that you have. In terms of the Marketing Center itself, it is an online tool that is designed to allow you to create all sorts of marketing pieces for a variety of different formats. It's a template-based system, which means that it's very easy to use, and that really all you need to do is input the photos and the text, and then it will have it already formatted for you, and a lot of professionally designed templates. Within the Marketing Center, there's a huge library of stock images and articles that you can use, as well as drip marketing functionality, which I'm going to talk about a little bit later, in terms of the ability to send messages to clients on a regular basis. The Marketing Center is touch-friendly, so if you are accessing it via an iPad or other tablet device, it's easy to use because, again, it is touch-friendly. One thing to keep in mind about the Marketing Center is the fact that we're constantly innovating and adding new templates within the system to make sure that it's meeting the needs of our agents. So For example, regularly adding new templates, new distribution options, as well as all new functionality. And so if you ever come across something that you'd really like to see added in there, just be sure to let us know and get in touch with us here at Royal LePage Canada. You can either contact myself as part of the Learning Services team by my email. I'll share all this at the end, but the email is learningservices@royallepage.ca. And just give you an example of the kinds of innovation that we're adding is we've recently added a new carriage trade property website. So this carriage trade, if you're not familiar with it, is our exclusive luxury brand. And this property website, it's really, it's a slideshow and so much more. So you're able to input images, but also put in some neighborhood information and really create a full website for the specific listing. So with that, let's actually launch into the Marketing Center now, and I can show you some of the tools that are available. Of course, starting with the listing data integration, as I was mentioning earlier. So in order to get to the Marketing Center, I'm going to open up a new internet window, go to rlpnetwork.com. And then I'll log in with my username and password. Guessing that most of you already have your access information for the RLP network, and you've probably already attended our welcome webinar. But if not, you can always contact your office administrator to get that information. And if they don't have it, you can contact our customer care team. So to get to the Marketing Center, it's the Marketing tab, and then I'll go down a few to Marketing Center. And as I was mentioning earlier, the first thing I want to do was talk about the listing data integration feature. So I just realized this isn't the account I want to log in as. I'm just going to switch accounts to log in under a different username. The reason for that is the listing data integration feature, it only works if you currently have an active listing. Because of course, if you don't have an active listing right now, there's nothing for the system to pull from. So again, to get to the Marketing Center, it's under the Marketing tab and then Marketing Center. And here we go. So the steps for a listing data integration are quite simple to follow. The first one is that you need to select the listing. So you'll see a drop-down menu. Currently, I just have the one active listing there, so I'll leave it at that. Step 2 is being able to choose which template you'd like to create. So there's that new carriage trade property website that I was mentioning earlier, feature sheets, postcards. The most popular is probably our one-page feature sheet for one agent. So I'm going to select it, and I'm going to launch the Marketing Center, which will open up the Marketing Center in a brand new window and immediately take me to beginning the process of creating this feature sheet. The first step that you're always going to come across when you create anything within the Marketing Center is that you need to come up with a name for the project as well as a folder to save it into. So this one is for my listing at 1280 Kelly Street. I'm putting that in as the project name. Then I'm going to put in _FS. And I'm just using FS as a short form for feature sheet. But of course, you can give whatever names you'd like and whatever is easiest for you to remember and organize your files within the system. I also need to save this into a specific folder. So it just so happens that I already have a 1280 Kelly Street folder. But if I didn't, I could go up to create a new folder and include it there. Our recommendation is that you create a new folder for each one of your listings, just as a best practice for keeping all of your projects within the Marketing Center organized. And then here, I want to make sure that I've got the listing, and it was the one 1280 Kelly Street. So I will save and continue. And here a little warning pops up just to let me know that it is actually going to be taking some of this information from the data from my listing and putting it in, and just to make sure that everything is fitting in as it should be. So the first step here is to put in some photos. And you see I've got the 5 photos already uploaded. Yeah, you might be wondering, where are these photos actually going to display on the finished product? So at any point, you can click View Layout, and then you'll see the photos. So photo 1 is this big image at the top, and then photos 2 through 5 are the smaller ones around the side. So it makes sense that for photo 1, I've got a shot of the exterior of the home, and then for 2 through 5, I have photos of the different rooms of the home. If I noticed, for example, this first photo, it's got a little exclamation mark in the top right-hand corner. And that's just an indication for me that the system is flagging this photo to let me know that the quality might not be the greatest, and that if this is a project that I'm going to be printing, to potentially consider uploading a higher resolution version of the photo. Now, if I click on that photo, I can see a larger version. And to be honest, that one looks fine to me. The resolution is okay. But if I was concerned about the photo quality, and that does often happen in terms of the photos that we get through, once it passes through the board and then through to CREA and then ends up on RoyalLePage.ca, sometimes the photo quality has been diminished. So what you can do is just trash this photo by clicking on the delete icon, and then go up to add photos, and you'd be able to upload a new version of this image. So I'm happy with the way that the photos look. I'm going to click save and continue to move on to the next point. And again, if you're concerned about where this information is actually going to be displaying with all this text, again, you can always click view layout to see, okay, list price is going to show here, just above property, street and address, city, province, and so forth. And just like with the images, all of the text has already been input into my project template. Again, this is pulling directly from the listing. You'll notice that as I hover over each one of these fields, there's 2 things that happen. First, there's an icon that appears in the top right-hand corner. That's something that's called the Phrase Assistant. And the Phrase Assistant, if I click on it, it provides some inspiration in terms of how you want to go about filling in this project. So for example, it saves in the Your Phrases section anything that I've used in the past. So any expression or text that I've written in the past will be added into the Your Phrases category. You can also go to the Generic Phrases category and do a search by keyword. So for example, if I had a listing that I wanted to talk about as being especially comfortable, I could do a search. And then here it's giving me all sorts of different ideas of how I could talk about this listing in an interesting way, and kind of a tagline that I could use. And if you see one of these that you like, all you need to do is click Insert and Close to add it into the project template. The other thing that happens when I click into each field is just below, there's a little space, and it'll tell me how many characters are remaining. So I've got space for 25 additional characters in this particular field. In the interest of time, I'm not going to go through every single bit of text that's in here, and I'm just going to skip on to the next step. This is the step where you're just confirming your agent information. And here, title's a little bit weird, so appears to have been translated into French. So I'm going to fix that to sales representative. And then the phone number is okay. I'm going to talk about updating the profile in a second. And the reason that that's so important is that once you've updated your profile, it's going to go and automatically update all of, it means that once you've updated your profile, anytime you create a project going forward, it will automatically input all of your profile data so that you don't have to enter in a photo and your email and your phone number every time. So you've done it once and then it's done. So I'm happy with the way that my agent information looks. I'm going to click Save and Continue and move on to the end. And here, let me just click the Preview button. And I really just wanted to give you a sense of how, with this listing data integration feature, you can create a feature sheet or really any type of Marketing Center template for your project very quickly and very easily. So if I look at my preview here, I mean, in less than probably 10 minutes, I was able to put this together. So at this point, what I'd like to do is talk about updating the profile within the Marketing Center. The way that you'll do that is up in the top right-hand corner where it has your name. If you click on it, you'll have a drop-down menu that appears. And the first option is profile information. So this would include your name, your photo, as well as all of your contact details. So here I've got my name, my title, some phone numbers, a website, email, and a photo. My photo's already in the system, but if you haven't already uploaded a photo, when you come here, you'll just see a gray box that'll say click here to upload photo, and it will allow you to do a search from your hard drive on your computer to upload an image. As I hover over the image, there's two icons that appear. On the left-hand side, there's the trash bin that would allow me to delete this image. And on the right-hand side, there's what looks like a grid with a line through it. That is the cropping tool if you needed to change the dimensions of this photo. If you make any changes to your profile, just remember to hit save in the bottom right-hand side. And currently it's just logging all of the changes that I've made. And then once it's done, it's going to send me a little confirmation message in green just to let me know that the changes were successful. Next, I want to go back up to my profile, but this time I'm going to select business info. And what we mean by business info is the name of your brokerage as well as your brokerage's address. And then on the right-hand side, you have the choice of logo. So you could either have the standard Royal LePage logo, like the one on the right, or you could have a logo that is specific to your brokerage. So in my case, that would be Royal LePage Real Estate Services Limited. I could click on it. You'll see whatever brokerage you are currently affiliated with. And so if you choose the one you'd like, select and close. And of course, remember to save any changes that you make. I'm going to go back up to my profile for a third time, and this time go down to account settings. So this is where you can make a few quick modifications to your account. The first one being, do you want to use a bit.ly short URL? For those of you who aren't familiar with bit.ly, it's just a way of simplifying a URL, so an internet link, if you decide that you want to share one of your projects from the Marketing Center digitally. So rather than getting a big long string, the bit.ly short URL will give you a more condensed version, probably be a lot of different letters and numbers in there to make it so short, and kind of a random mix of letters and numbers. But if you have some sort of restriction on space, for example, if you were going to send out this link in a tweet, like on Twitter, then the bit.ly short URL would be a great option because you can have a shorter link to share. The second question is, do you want to send an email only to recipients who've given consent? So this is one of the tools that we've put in place to ensure that the system is fully compliant with Canada's anti-spam legislation. If you do decide that, yes, you only want to send to those who have given consent, I'm going to show you a little bit later when I talk about contacts, how you can actually indicate that a client has given consent to receive commercial emails from you. You can set your time zone. And the reason that setting your time zone is relevant is that if you decide to schedule emails from the Marketing Center, it will schedule them accordingly based on whatever time zone you give yourself. And just as a courtesy to your clients that you're not sending them emails at 1 or 2 in the morning. And then skipping down to the last question, and what language would you like to display? So you have the option of English, French, bilingual, or no preference. If you're working only in English, I of course encourage you to select English. And the benefit of that being that it will hide all of the French templates from view, and you won't ever accidentally create a French template not realizing what you're doing. If you do work in both English and French, I would encourage you to select no preference. The reason for that being, if you actually choose bilingual, it will only show you templates that have both English and French on them, and it really limits the selection that's available to you. And like with all the other ones, click Save. The last thing I wanted to show you from within the profile menu is the Photo Manager tool. So I go down to Manage Photos, then I have a way of organizing all of my photos even before I begin to create a project. So let's say I've just got a new listing at 123 King Street. What I can do is once I've got those photos, come here, create an album, and then click here to create that album, and then upload all of those images. So that when I'm in the Marketing Center creating the marketing pieces for that listing, it's very easy to access this group of images that I've already uploaded that are already all sorted to according to their listing. Now what I want to do is talk about how you can find new templates to begin working on. So to do that, you'll need to click on the Designs button. And here I've got a menu. There's actually, even before I get to the menu, the very top, there's a search bar where I could type in a variety of different keywords. So if I was looking for, say, brochure templates, start typing in brochure, and then this drop-down menu appears with a whole bunch of different suggestions. So you could search based on the type of project, the keywords, perhaps what the project would be used for. So recruiting, prospecting, that kind of thing, as well as even something as simple as color or design you could do a search for. In the next window, it's got it divided into 4 different categories. The first one being recent, where it shows me the templates that I've been working on last. Favorites is where anything that I've saved as a favorite will reside, just for make it easier for me to come back to in the future. You know that something is a favorite if you see that it has the star filled in. So if that star is solid, then it's already been saved as a favorite. If you wanted to unfavorite something, you just click into that star, and then that star becomes hollow and will no longer be considered a favorite. I want to make sure I don't lose this one, so I'm going to click back into it just to make it one of my favorites. In the popular section, you're going to see templates that Royal LePage Canada has decided to highlight. Or, sorry, that's the featured one. Featured is where you see the ones that Royal LePage has decided to highlight, which is typically the newest templates that have just been added to the system. Whereas popular are the templates that are being used most often by other people within Royal LePage. My preferred method of search is actually to scroll right down to the bottom here, and you can see a really visually clear layout here of all of the different types of projects that are available. One in particular that I think is really neat is this website tool, which it can be you can either have it as a desktop website, or you can also use it as a listing presentation that you could download to a tablet to then take to your clients. What's great is that it comes fully stocked with content already, including a video and information about Royal LePage and the real estate process, but there's a lot of opportunity for customization and flexibility. For the purposes of today's presentation, I'm just going to click on Feature Sheet. And once you do that, it takes you to this next menu where you see a whole panel of drop-down menus. So beside where it says feature sheet, it has the number 66 in brackets. And what that tells me is that there are 66 different feature sheet templates available to me from within the Marketing Center. So I could use this other criteria to help narrow down my search to find exactly what I'm looking for. So I could choose, for example, one page. That takes me down to 48. Theme, the is what we do. And this narrows the search down to 3. And from here, I can see the 3 different templates. Again, when I hover over them, there's that star. So this star is right now empty, which means that it has not been saved as a favorite. But if I wanted to add it as a favorite, I could just click into the star. The icon on the right-hand side, it's a little box with a check mark into it. And if I click on that, then it will allow me to immediately begin creating this project. I'm not going to go through these steps of creating a project again. We did that earlier with the listing data integration. But I do want to show you where you can go to access projects that you've created previously. So if you go to the My Projects tab, and then here at the top, I can see what I've recently just created. Or I could go down and search among my folders. So I could look in my 1280 Kelly Street folder, and then I could select the feature sheet that I created. So on this page, again, I could do a preview just to make sure that I'm happy with the way that the feature sheet looks. And since this one, it's good, it's looking ready to go. So now I can begin looking at some of the distribution options. And those are represented by these icons here along the center and bottom of the screen. The first one that I want to talk about is Publish to Web. And what that means is that it will save this project online. And you can almost think of it as creating a unique web page just for this feature sheet. So if I do go ahead and publish this to web, the system is going to give me a link that I could then share via social media. I could share it in an email, or I could look at some of the advanced options, and I could actually get the coding so that I could have this feature sheet embedded as a part of my very own website. One of the things that's neat about the Publish to Web feature is that you have the ability to track statistics. So if you click on this link in Tools tab here, then you can actually access some of the analytics to see how many people are viewing your project. At this point, I won't have had anybody look at mine because I only just created it. But by clicking these stats here, I could look at some of the traffic. The second option available is email to contacts. And the email system from within the Marketing Center offers a variety of benefits. One of the big ones is, and what I really like about the system, is the fact that it actually embeds the feature sheet in the message body. So it's not sending it as an attachment. It gives it a much more professional look to have the template appear in the message body. The other advantage of the email function within the Marketing Center is the fact that it was designed to be compliant with Canada's anti-spam legislation, and that those who receive your messages do have the ability to unsubscribe. And were someone to unsubscribe from your emails, then you'd receive a notification. You could potentially follow up with that person. The other thing with the email option is that you do have the ability to track statistics. So you can see how many people have opened the email, how many times they've opened the email, and whether you've had any bounce backs because that person's email inbox is full or because their email has been deactivated or was entered incorrectly into the system. To access those analytics, all you need to do is click on the Email History tab. Again, because I have not yet sent this project out via email, there's nothing there. But that is where you could go to access those statistics. The next section over is the Download PDF, which would allow you to download this project as a PDF and either take to a professional printer to have printed or to print at home or at the office. The Marketing Center also has a variety of social media integration, and you can actually post your finished products on 4 different social media networks. There's Facebook, Twitter, Google+, and Pinterest. And the way it works is if I were to click on, say, Facebook, it would take me to the Facebook login page. I could log into the system and then have this posted directly to my wall. There's an option here on the right-hand side to buy a domain name. So if I wanted to buy, say, 1280kellystreet.com, I could click on that icon there. First, it would allow me to do a search just to make sure that that domain name is still available. And if it was, then I could proceed to purchase. It's $19.95 to purchase a domain name for the year. The final option I want to talk about is a logo for ColorTech Marketing. They are a company based out of Mississauga, Ontario. And if you click on their logo, you can see a price list as well as submit an order to have them do the printing for you and then ship it directly to your office. So that brings me to the end of the distribution portion of this webinar. At this point, what I'd like to do is talk about the contact system as well as compliance with Canada's anti-spam legislation. So to look at your contacts, you'll need to click on the Contacts button, and you can see all of your contacts from within the system. You have the ability to click Create a New Contact if you want to add people one by one or individually. But as you're first getting started out, I imagine that many of you already have a database or a list of contacts. And you'll want to bring that over into the system so that you don't have to manually enter each one individually. So to do that, you'll just click on the Import Contacts button. And it's going to ask you to come up with a name for this group. I'm going to call mine my July 2015 clients and go to Next. The Marketing Center allows for several different file format types to be uploaded into the system. I find that Excel or CSV is typically the easiest, especially because virtually every email and CRM program that I've ever seen gives you the option of exporting your contacts in CSV file format. So it's one of the ones that's more kind of universally friendly, and it's quite easy to work with. So once you have your clients and prospective leads in an Excel or CSV file format, you can click on that button and then do a search on your computer to find the image in question, or sorry, the spreadsheet in question. So I'm going to take my sample contact list and put it into the system. Now, this next step is where I need to map the fields, because the Marketing Center has automatically tried to detect what kind of information is found in each one of these columns. So for example, it's recognized first names, last names. It didn't recognize company, but in this case, that's not very relevant. I've got their address, their city, postal code, province, phone. And here's a big one that it somehow was unable to map, and that's their email address. Because as you can see right now, it says skip column, but we definitely don't want to skip this column. We want to make sure that it gets mapped correctly. So I go and I select email address so that it aligns. Same thing with the birth dates. For some reason that got cut off, so I'm going to go in and make sure that the birthdays are inputted when I put in these contacts. The other thing to take note of is there's this blue line here, and it's asking me, is this a contact? So when I put in my spreadsheet, the Marketing Center was looking at every single row, and it's wondering if that first row of my spreadsheet, if that is in fact a person, or if it's just a series of titles. So in this case, there's no one called first name, last name. So is this a contact? No, this is not a person. First name and last name are just the titles that I was using to keep my spreadsheet organized. And so when you're done, just click Next. And here it will let you know what has happened. So one of the things that I love so much about the Marketing Center is that it will automatically update it if you add in the same person a second time. So it's smart enough to recognize that this person is a duplicate and that it should not be creating a unique, another unique username just for that person. So because this is a list I've used in the past, there was actually 0 new contacts that were created because I've already used this list. There's nobody new that I added to it. However, for the people who are already in the system, it's updated those contacts with the latest information that I have input. So what this means for you is that you don't constantly need to be worried about whether or not your database lines up with the list of contacts you've got here in the Marketing Center. At any point, you can just come into the contact section, upload your database, and if there's new people, they'll be created. But if there is nobody new, it won't create doubles for those people. It will actually recognize that and just update those existing contacts if any of their information has changed. So I'm happy with how that looks. I click Next. And it's just, again, telling me what action is going to be performed, and then done. So here I can see all of my contacts. If I were to click on one, say Learning Services, I can see their information, potentially make some edits to it. I can also look at the advanced options. And one of the advanced options is the consent history. So this whole feature was added to make sure that the system was compliant with Canada's anti-spam legislation. What you're able to do is go here to request consent. And there's 2 different things you can do. You can either have an email sent to your client to ask them for consent, and I'll show you a preview of what that looks like. It's a message. It's already written all for you, so it's very easy to send out. And all the other person has to do is click on that Stay in Touch link, and then that will register with the system that they have given you consent to send emails. If you've already received consent from the person in some other format, maybe they told you verbally, or they spoke to you and mentioned that they were willing to receive emails, you can click Manually Enter Consent. So just put in a brief description of how you obtain that consent, and then an expiry date. And if you do decide to use this request consent feature within the Marketing Center, then you can also use that feature I was showing you in the profile, whereby the system will only send messages to people in your database if they've agreed to receive those messages. So that's it for contacts. Now I want to talk about campaigns and some of the drip marketing campaigns that we have available. These campaigns are designed so that you can send regular information out to your clients and as a way of educating them through the sales process and really positioning yourself as the expert in real estate. So there's 2 main kinds of campaigns. There are some that are date specific, by which we mean that the email items within that campaign will go out on a specific date. So for example, our e-newsletter is a perfect example of a date-specific campaign. So let's look at what that campaign actually looks like. It is date specific. And with a date specific campaign, when you go down to the events, and what we mean by events are all the messages included within this campaign, when you look at a preview of them, it will tell you exactly what date these pieces will be sent out on. Whereas if I were to look at a timing specific campaign, so a timing specific campaign, such as my seller campaign here, when I look at these events, it doesn't have a specific date. It's just giving me a rough estimate. So one day after the contact is added to this, they'll begin receiving this first message and so forth. Regardless of whether it's a date or timing specific campaign, a lot of the features are the exact same. So really the only difference is how the messages are sent out. But in terms of configuring the campaign itself, the process is virtually identical. So let me go back into this date specific campaign and I can walk you through the steps. First thing I want to draw your attention to is the campaign contact summary. And what that means is who is actually going to be receiving the messages in this campaign. So you go to Manage Contacts, you can click on the Contacts button, and then either do a search by individual or by groups and have them added in to receive your emails. Once you've added everybody in, just click Save, and this little silhouette icon will indicate how many people are going to be receiving your message. Campaign history is a section that I could come to refer to once I've actually begun creating a campaign and send out some of the marketing pieces. The campaign history will show me how many people have looked at my email and for each of the emails within the email campaign. The last section are the events, and there's two different types of events. One has a little talk box icon or a talk bubble icon, and that represents that it's a message that's just for you. So likely a reminder that you need to do something, perhaps follow up with a client or get ready to send out an email newsletter to them. The ones that have the little envelope icon, what that means is that these are actual emails that are being sent out to your consumer. On the right-hand side of the screen, you'll see that for each one of the events within my campaign, you have the ability to either turn it on or off. So by default, they'll all be turned on. But if, for example, you don't want to receive these reminders, you can just click the off button, and then that particular event will be turned off. Once your campaign is all configured and you're ready to go, just make sure to hit the start button at the beginning and everything's good to go. Now, with a date-specific campaign, like this e-newsletter for 2015, if I were to add somebody to it today, they would not receive these old messages. So they would not receive the spring newsletter for 2015 or the summer one that went out on June 1st. However, they would receive these remaining messages in there. So for our date-specific campaigns, they need to be updated each year. So when we get to the new year, to 2016, you'll receive an email from Royal LePage letting you know when that next 2016 campaign becomes available. If you're working with a timing-specific campaign, what's great is that you can continuously be adding people to the campaign, and you don't have to create a new campaign each time. I could simply just be adding more and more people to it. So if, say, last week I set Joe up on this campaign, he'd start receiving this series of messages, and then the timeline for which is indicated here and the time to send. And then if a couple weeks later I were to add Melissa to my email campaign, then she would start from the very beginning, whereas the other client would continue to receive the messages from wherever they were. So my point being is that you can continuously be adding people to this campaign and it would send them the full series of 6 email messages. So that brings me to the end of my presentation for today. I'm just looking to see if there's any questions, and I'm not seeing any right now. If you're viewing today's presentation in Google+, then in the top right-hand corner, you should see either a little grid icon or an icon that is kind of turquoise colored and says Q&A. So you just click on that icon and then begin typing in your question. I'm just going to stay online to see if there are any questions. And before I go, just want to mention some of the other webinars that Royal LePage offers. For all of the information, just go to royallepage.ca/training, and you can see the various webinars. The most successful ones being our Sales Success, where we bring in an industry expert to talk about the latest trends in real estate, as well as best practices in terms of sales training. The second series is Building Your Tech Toolkit, where we talk about new technology, oftentimes Google Apps, that you can use to manage your business and really keep yourself organized and working efficiently. The next webinar for that will be next Wednesday, and we'll focus on Google Groups. So I'm not seeing any questions yet. So with that, I want to thank you so much for your time in participating in today's webinar. I hope you got some value out of it and that you're excited about beginning to use the Marketing Center. The last thing I just wanted to share with you is the contact information for the customer care team, as well as myself here. My name is John, and again, I'm part of the Learning Services team. Thank you very much for your time today, and I hope you have a wonderful rest of the day.